have to we have to teach Americans what this is.
We do.
And I don't know if we're doing that yet.
Okay.
I don't think most Americans realize they're already socialists.
In certain respects. Okay. Let's start off with what it is not what we want to change. We want to deal with the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality in America. Very few people think it is acceptable or moral that the top 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That we have seen a proliferate.
But see, Bernie, you always say that, and I think even the Republicans are not for income inequality. They hear that, but it doesn't compute that that's going to be solved by socialism. Socialism is the programs they already like. They like Social Security. That's socialism.
But here's...
They like Medicare. AOC says so many people in this country hate women. Oh, geez. Even the guy at the party who pulls out a guitar is like, way to ruin the fun.
Some corners of the Democratic Party are throwing their weight behind an AOC and Bernie Sanders ticket, convinced this duo is the antidote to Trump's rise. But Bill Maher thinks they're dead wrong. In a series of blistering clips, Maher didn't just take apart that argument, he torched it. Armed with his signature humor, sarcasm, and razor-sharp wit. So hit that subscribe button and let's get into it.
At an AOC Bernie Sanders rally in Idaho last month, someone threw a Palestinian flag over an American flag, and the crowd erupted in approval. What should have happened after that is one of the adults on stage should have told their young, loyal followers, this is not a symbol of freedom. This is. If the thought leaders in the Democratic Party keep encouraging and not rebuking the idea that America is cringe and the people who run Gaza are great, the Democrats are doomed. Alyssa Slotkin's right. Liberals are weak and woke, especially the white ones, and they indulge all sorts of nonsense from their kids.
One of Maher's sharpest criticisms cuts straight to the culture war. AOC and Sanders are, in his view, deeply embedded in woke ideology, and that's a massive liability with mainstream voters. But it goes beyond policy. Maher argues both have aligned themselves with a faction of the left that puts other countries before their own. When someone drapes a foreign flag over the American flag at a rally, AOC and Sanders won't flinch. No outrage, no pushback, just silence, or worse, tacit approval. To most ordinary Americans, that's not progressive politics. That's a red line. And Maher believes that baggage will sink any ticket before it even gets off the ground.
What do you think of the fact that the people who are getting the big crowds right now are AOC and Bernie Sanders? They're going around the country. Thank you, there's that same guy. I call him the always wrong guy. Okay, but I feel like, you know, big crowds, again, the shiny object that the Democrats chase. It's not about the big crowds that come out to you when you're talking in a festival or wherever they are. I think it's because I think Bernie showed up at Coachella. That must have been fun for the fans. It's who shows up on Election Day. And I just don't see that's the ticket.
Maher openly admits the crowd energy around AOC and Sanders is undeniable. They consistently draw some of the biggest, most electric rallies in the party. But here's the cold hard truth, big crowds mean absolutely nothing. We've seen this before. The Harris-Walz campaign generated massive euphoric turnout, packed arenas, and roaring crowds. And it didn't translate to votes when it actually mattered. Maher saw it coming. He was sounding the alarm, warning the DNC not to get drunk on crowd sizes. He said it loudly and repeatedly. The DNC didn't listen. Now history appears dangerously close to repeating itself.
Bernie, AOC, Mandani are not Democrats. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're Democratic Socialists, and that's a very different thing, and I don't think people know that yet. The DSA are radicals about this concept, and radical economic policy is always ineluctably married to radical social policy. Their platform, for example, calls for completely open borders. They're for what Biden was doing, but more. You think you're going to win an election on that?
One of Maher's most pointed observations is one many mainstream Democrats would rather ignore. AOC and Bernie Sanders aren't actually Democrats. They are Democratic Socialists. And Maher is emphatic these are not interchangeable terms. Democratic Socialists don't simply sit on the left wing of the party. They represent something fundamentally different, essentially a socialist arm operating inside the DNC's tent, quietly nudging the party toward a socialist framework. For Maher, that's a deeply alarming trajectory. Handing the Democratic ticket to two self-identified Democratic Socialists wouldn't just cost the party an election, it could trigger a much bigger political backlash.
Democratic socialism is like a dating profile. Things look great until you meet up in the real world. For example, Bernie Sanders, his big thing was always bringing single-payer health care to our country of 340 million. But when liberal, tie-dyed Vermont tried to do it for a population of 626,000, it collapsed like that poor fuck in the Oval Office last week.
Maher then turns his sights on Bernie's most cherished proposal, single-payer health care. It's a policy Sanders has championed for decades and a guaranteed applause line at every rally. But Maher's verdict is blunt. It sounds great, it sells well, and it simply doesn't work. When Sanders got the chance to test his vision in Vermont, one of the most liberal, Bernie-friendly states in the country, the whole thing collapsed spectacularly under its own financial weight. If it couldn't survive in Vermont, it has no business being pitched to the rest of America. Big promises, electric energy, and policies that crumble the moment they meet reality.
We have to teach Americans what this is.
We do.
And I don't know if we're doing that yet.
Okay.
I don't think most Americans realize they're already socialists.
In certain respects, okay. Let's start off with what it is not what we want to change. We want to deal with the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality in America. Very few people think it is acceptable or moral that the top 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That we have seen a proliferate.
But see, Bernie, you always say that, and I think even the Republicans are not for income inequality. They hear that, but it doesn't compute that that's going to be solved by socialism. Socialism is the programs they already like. They like Social Security. That's socialism.
But here's...
They like Medicare.
And on this point, Maher is absolutely right. Income inequality is a genuine, pressing problem that cuts across political lines. Nobody seriously disputes that the wealth gap in America has reached deeply troubling levels. The disagreement isn't about whether the problem exists, it's about the solution. And socialism, Maher argues, is not that solution. Socialist systems don't eliminate inequality, they redistribute it upward. Wealth consolidates into the hands of ruling elites, bureaucrats, and party loyalists who never built or earned anything. The very inequality AOC and Sanders claim to fight gets turbocharged under the systems they advocate for. Maher sees through it. Voters, he hopes, will too.
I know that being a gorgeous woman who I wouldn't even know was Hispanic in a city that has 1 million Hispanics and does not treat them badly.
But that doesn't mean she doesn't struggle. That doesn't mean that she was set down.
It implies it.
But that doesn't mean that she was set down in Hispanic ghetto in the Bronx and had to deal with that growing up, and that she's from a working class family.
It implies that in some way she's behind the 8 ball because of that, and it's just not true.
Another reason Maher sees the AOC Sanders ticket as a loser comes down to authenticity, or the glaring lack of it. AOC has carefully crafted an identity around being a scrappy outsider, a working-class girl who bartended her way to Congress. It's a compelling story. The problem, according to Maher, is that it doesn't hold up. Plenty of people from comfortable middle-class families have waited tables. It doesn't make them disadvantaged. Maher's point is sharp. AOC leans heavily into a working-class image that deserves more scrutiny. And in an era where voters are increasingly allergic to political theater, that kind of inauthenticity could prove fatal at the ballot box.
AOC says so many people in this country hate women. Oh, geez. Even the guy at the party who pulls out a guitar is like, way to ruin the fun.
Maher's critique of AOC doesn't stop at her narrative. He goes after her facts, too. AOC's claim that America is a country that hates women is, to Maher, not just misleading but almost laughable. American women own thriving businesses, govern states, command boardrooms, run for the highest office, and occupy virtually every leadership position imaginable. That's not oppression. That's progress decades in the making. Casually branding America a misogynistic country isn't just factually sloppy. It's deeply insulting to the very real gains women have fought hard to achieve. AOC, he argues, should know better.
But again, something like the free market is kind of synonymous with America. And if you don't like it, I don't know how you can say you love this country. You know who loves this country? You know who's not constantly complaining about what happened 200 years ago and who's not obsessed with seeing America through shit-colored glasses and shaking off the stench of what irredeemable, privileged assholes we are?
Maher raises yet another uncomfortable truth the Democratic establishment won't confront. The socialist agenda AOC and Sanders are pushing isn't a winning formula, it's a liability. And the anti-America sentiment bleeding into their rhetoric is landing even worse than their policies. Here's the irony Maher finds striking. Immigrants, a demographic the left assumes is firmly in their corner, aren't buying it. These are people who left everything behind, often risking their lives to reach American shores. They didn't flee their home countries to hear politicians trash the very nation they sacrificed so much to reach. When AOC and Sanders disparage America, they aren't speaking for immigrants, they're alienating them. And at the ballot box, that will cost them dearly.
But I am a perspective guy, and that's what too much of the left has lost, perspective. 72% of black people under 30 are optimistic about their future in America, way more than white people the same age. And as far as the land goes, yes, I guess we could change the name of Captain America to Captain Stolen Land.
AOC and Sanders have built their brand on the narrative that minorities in America are suffering at a scale that is both unique and unprecedented. But Maher pushes back with characteristic bluntness, arguing it fundamentally misrepresents what minority communities actually think and feel. The data tells a far more nuanced story. Despite the relentlessly bleak picture AOC and Sanders paint, Black Americans, most frequently held up as the left's primary example, actually express deeper appreciation for this country than their white counterparts. Not blind loyalty, not ignorance of history, genuine appreciation. AOC and Sanders claim to speak for minority communities, but increasingly those communities aren't echoing the rage being projected onto them. And on that note, we draw the curtains on today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.